The Unbearable Weight. Trauma endures for jurors in the Timothy Jones Jr. case. Imagine being forced to confront the unimaginable, the brutal murder of 5 innocent children. Now, imagine having to decide the fate of the man responsible. This is the reality faced by the jurors in the Timothy Jones Jr. case, a case that continues to haunt them long after the verdict was delivered. Give a like and subscribe, leave a comment. The trial of Timothy Jones Jr. was not just a legal proceeding, it was a descent into the darkest recesses of human depravity. The evidence presented was so disturbing, so viscerally horrifying, that it left an indelible scar on everyone involved, especially the jurors tasked with rendering a verdict. Graphic images of the crime scene, detailed testimonies about the unimaginable abuse and murders, and Jones's own chilling confession painted a picture of unspeakable horror. These weren't just abstract concepts, they were the realities of 5 young lives brutally extinguished. The details of the murders were gruesome beyond comprehension. Jones's methods, the way he killed his children, the way he stored their bodies, and his desperate attempts to dispose of them were all meticulously laid bare. Each piece of evidence was a fresh wound, inflicted not just on the victims, but on the very souls of the jurors. The emotional toll on the jurors was immense. They were forced to process information that no human being should ever have to confront. The weight of their responsibility, the knowledge that their decision would determine whether Jones lived or died, compounded the trauma. Reports of continuing trauma among the jurors are a stark reminder of the lasting psychological damage inflicted by this case. Born on December 28, 1981, Timothy Jones Jr. became synonymous with unimaginable evil when he murdered his 5 children in 2014. His name is now etched in the annals of true crime, a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. Jones admitted to working Natan to death and then, in a twisted panic, killing the others. This confession, delivered with a chilling detachment, revealed a man consumed by anger and a distorted worldview. In 2019, Jones was found guilty of 5 counts of murder and sentenced to death. He currently awaits execution on death row in South Carolina, a fate many believe is a just consequence for his heinous crimes. Timothy Jones Jr. A.'s early life was marred by instability and potential trauma. Born to Timothy Jones Sr. and Cindy Jones, his upbringing was far from idyllic. Cindy Jones was described as violent and erratic, with a suspected mental illness. This unstable environment likely contributed to the development of Jones Jr.'s own psychological issues. In 2001, Jones Jr. was arrested for possession of cocaine, check forgery, and car theft. This early brush with the law foreshadowed the darkness that would later consume him. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison, but was released in 2003. This period of incarceration, while intended to rehabilitate, may have further hardened him, setting the stage for the horrific events to come. In 2004, Jones married Amber Kaiser in Chicago. They went on to have 5 children: Mara, Elias, Natan, Gabriel, and Abigail. These innocent children would ultimately become the victims of his unspeakable rage. Jones graduated from Mississippi State University with a degree in computer engineering and secured a job as an engineer for Intel in Columbia, South Carolina. He presented an image of a successful, stable family man. Beneath the surface, however, Jones was a strict Christian fundamentalist, adhering to rigid beliefs that may have contributed to his distorted worldview and his eventual descent into madness. The facade of normalcy began to crumble in May 2012 when Jones and Amber separated due to Amber's affair. This marked a turning point in Jones's life, triggering a series of events that would ultimately lead to tragedy. Jones sought help from a family therapist and marriage counselor, but the damage was already done. The breakdown of his marriage fueled his anger and resentment. He accused his wife of neglecting the children, prompting the Department of Social Services, DSS, to open an investigation. This accusation, while potentially valid, also served as a way for Jones to exert control and manipulate the situation. The divorce was finalized in October 2013, with Jones being awarded custody of the children. This decision, while seemingly in the best interests of the children, ultimately placed them in the care of a man teetering on the brink of madness. The children's mother's visits rarely took place at the rented trailer where Jones and the children lived, further isolating them and increasing Jones's control over their lives. The family lived in a trailer in Red Bank, Lexington, South Carolina. This humble dwelling became the site of unimaginable horrors. The family was investigated twice for child abuse, but no evidence was found that warranted removing the children from Jones's care. This represents a critical failure of the system, a missed opportunity to protect these vulnerable children. Accusations of spanking and forcing exercises as punishment were made, raising red flags about Jones's parenting methods. These disciplinary measures, while not necessarily criminal, indicated a potential for abuse and a lack of understanding of child development. A caseworker noted that Jones was overwhelmed and unable to maintain the home. This observation, while seemingly minor, highlighted the instability and chaos that permeated the children's lives. Tragically, the investigation was not concluded before the murders occurred. This failure to act decisively allowed Jones to continue his descent into madness, ultimately leading to the deaths of his 5 innocent children. On August 28, 2014, Jones picked up his children from school and daycare. This seemingly ordinary act marked the beginning of an unimaginable nightmare. He unsafely forced the children out of the car at Walmart, a small but telling detail that reveals his disregard for their safety and well-being. Amber Jones spoke to Natan at 7:12 p.m., then lost contact. This was the last time anyone outside of Jones's control would speak to the children. Authorities estimate that Jones killed his children the night of August 28th. The exact sequence of events remains shrouded in darkness, but the outcome is tragically clear. He wrapped their corpses in black trash bags and used bleach to cover the stench. This chilling act of desecration reveals the depths of his depravity and his complete lack of remorse. Jones admitted to killing his children on August 28th. His confession, while providing some insight into his motives, also revealed the extent of his mental instability. Travis Presley testified that Jones admitted to strangling his eldest daughter. This chilling detail underscores the brutality of his actions and the calculated nature of his crimes. Jones claimed he became angry after Natan broke an electrical outlet. This seemingly trivial incident served as the catalyst for his murderous rage. He claimed he found Natan dead and then killed the others. This claim, while potentially a fabrication, suggests a desperate attempt to rationalize his actions and minimize his culpability. Experts suggested that Natan was strangled to death. This finding contradicts Jones's claim and further reinforces the conclusion that he acted with malice and intent. The bodies were discovered in black trash bags near Camden, Alabama. This remote location, far from Jones's home, underscores his attempt to evade detection and escape justice. He was stopped in Mississippi for a routine traffic checkpoint. This seemingly random event proved to be his undoing. Police found blood and materials to produce methamphetamine in Jones's car. This discovery further implicated him in the murders and revealed the extent of his criminal activity. They also found handwritten notes detailing how to mutilate bodies. This chilling evidence suggests a premeditated plan to dispose of the bodies and conceal his crimes. He led authorities to where he disposed of the corpses. This act of cooperation, while seemingly helpful, may have been a calculated attempt to appear remorseful and mitigate his punishment. Dr. Janice Ross performed the autopsies. Her findings provided a grim and detailed account of the children's final moments. The black bags sped up the decomposition process. This detail underscores the horrific conditions in which the bodies were stored and the extent of Jones's disregard for the victims. The bodies had been outdoors for approximately 1 week. This prolonged exposure to the elements further exacerbated the decomposition process and made identification more difficult. Significant decomposition by animal eating and maggots was evident. This gruesome detail highlights the brutality of the murders and the indignity suffered by the victims. The cause of death for all 5 children was asphyxiation due to manual strangulation. This finding confirms the violent nature of the murders and the deliberate intent of the perpetrator. Jones pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. This defense, while potentially valid, was ultimately rejected by the jury. Jones's recorded testimony was played for the jury. This allowed them to hear his version of events and assess his mental state. Amber Jones testified that Timothy was always a good father while we were married. This statement, while potentially influenced by her own guilt and grief, provided a glimpse into the complexities of their relationship. Joy Lorick described the Jones home as dirty and filed a complaint with DSS. This testimony highlighted the neglect and instability that permeated the children's lives. A school nurse described the children as in good health. This statement, while seemingly positive, may have masked underlying issues that were not readily apparent. On June 4, 2019, the jury found Timothy Jones guilty of all 5 counts of murder. This verdict brought a sense of closure to the victims' families and the community. On June 13, the jury sentenced Jones to death. This decision reflected the gravity of his crimes and the overwhelming evidence against him. Jones was one of 2 men sentenced to death in South Carolina in 2019. This underscores the rarity of capital punishment in the state. As of 2023, he is awaiting execution on death row. His fate remains uncertain, but his conviction stands as a testament to the justice system's ability to hold even the most heinous criminals accountable. South Carolina taxpayers paid $647,653.27 for Jones's trial. This staggering figure highlights the financial burden of capital punishment cases. In 2021, Jones requested the South Carolina Supreme Court to review his case. This was a last-ditch effort to overturn his conviction and avoid execution. Jones's attorney claimed that the trial was unfair. This argument, while common in capital punishment cases, was ultimately unsuccessful. On March 29, 2023, the court issued an opinion affirming his conviction and death sentence. This decision effectively exhausted Jones's legal options and solidified his fate. The jurors in the Timothy Jones Jr. case were exposed to violent content that no human being should ever have to witness. The graphic images, detailed testimonies, and Jones's own chilling confession left an indelible scar on their psyches. They bore the immense responsibility of deciding a person's fate. This burden weighed heavily on them, knowing that their decision would determine whether Jones lived or died. The emotional weight of the case was crushing. They were forced to confront the darkest aspects of human nature and grapple with the complexities of justice and morality. The potential for lasting mental health challenges is significant. Many jurors may experience post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other psychological issues as a result of their service. There is a critical need for resources for jurors involved in emotionally taxing trials. These resources should include counseling, support groups, and other mental health services. It is essential to acknowledge the potential for long-term psychological consequences for jurors who serve in these cases. Their service is a civic duty, but it should not come at the cost of their mental well-being. If you or someone you know has served on a jury in a traumatic case, please seek help. There are resources available to support you through this difficult time. Don't suffer in silence. Your mental health matters. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analyses of true crime cases. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on the psychological impact of jury duty and what resources you think should be available to jurors. Consider supporting organizations that provide mental health services to those affected by trauma. Your support can make a real difference in the lives of those who have been impacted by these horrific events.